Hey guys, I'm Natalie Hodson. Hey, I want to talk to you guys today about something that really impacts about 2/3 of women after they've had babies. And I got so frustrated last year because nobody talks about it. So it's this weird sounding condition called diastasis recti. But basically what that means is that oftentimes during pregnancy, your abdominal muscles will separate, which makes sense because you have a big old baby in your stomach. In fact, I had two 10-pound babies. And so your abdomen will get really, really big. And then oftentimes what can happen is that after you've had the baby, as your uterus shrinks back down, your ab muscles don't come back together properly. And so a lot of times, why a lot of women get frustrated because they feel like, I'm eating right, I'm exercising, how come I still have this, and I hate this word, but this little pooch, this mommy pooch. And sometimes it is a case of body fat, but in a lot of cases, it's simply this weird thing called diastasis recti. So last year I came out with a program. We helped over 50,000 women improve this condition. And so what I want to do is every week I'm going to do a video series where I'm just going to help you guys. And I want to teach you some things from our course that can really help improve if you have this issue. So what I'm going to do is if you leave a comment with the word abs, as soon as this video is over, I'll private message you my free guide that goes into detail of like what you should avoid and what you can do instead. So leave a comment with the word abs, and if you guys have any specific questions, I have cameraman Kurt here filming me. So you have this whole time to ask me any questions on this topic, and Kurt will read your questions and I'll answer them for you.
Oh yeah.
So I guess first what I want to do is just explain what this is. So a lot of times, I remember after I had my babies, I was like, and first off, let me clarify, like our bodies are never going to be the same after we have babies, and that's okay. Like I love my body now, even though it's totally different than my pre-baby days. But there are things that we can do to improve some of these issues that happen after pregnancy. And that's what we're here to help you with. So let me show you some pictures actually, so you can help as I explain it. So this is actually in our program, and it teaches and explains. So it explains what diastasis recti is. So you can see this is like what my ab muscles looked like before I had babies, for example. And then after, you have this connective tissue called your linea alba, and that got super, super stretched during pregnancy. I got huge after my pregnancy. And so what happened is I had this gap in between my abs. In fact, I was able to, after I had my babies, in fact, I'll just show you real quick how you can check for it. You just lie down on the ground, and what you want to do is lift your head up so that way your abs are contracted. And after I had my babies, my abs were so far separated that I could take 4 fingers and push like 2 inches deep in between my ab muscles. Now, I have about a 1-finger gap still, so there is a little bit of a gap that probably will never go away just because I had 2 10-pound babies. But that's how you can test. You want to feel up, and then you want to feel for the depth of the gap and the width of the gap. So I wasn't planning on going over that, but that's one of the common questions that I get asked is, how do I check to see if I have this? And then just like looking in the mirror, sometimes for me, for example, my gap was actually above my belly button, but a lot of women have the separation below their belly button. And so what that can look like, for example, and we go into kind of the science of it in the program, but on somebody's, this is what it looks like anatomically, but this is what you might be looking at in the mirror. So sometimes if you have this little pooch under your belly button, it could simply be a separation or a weakness of that linea alba connective tissue. This is what I looked like. So I got huge when I was pregnant. I had 2 10-pound babies, and then this is kind of normal postpartum, what was normal for me. And so I wanted to explain that because I know this word diastasis recti is a weird sounding word, but almost 2/3 of women that have babies have this condition, but like nobody talks about it, and nobody talks about ways that it can be improved. Now, if you go and talk to a plastic surgeon, they might say there's nothing you can do except a tummy tuck, except surgery to improve this. And what I say to that is that if you want to have no separation or no gap whatsoever, the surgeon is probably right. Like I just showed you, I still have a 1-finger gap in between these rectus abdominis muscles right here. But for me, that's functional, and I'm totally comfortable with that because I don't want a tummy tuck. I don't want to go through surgery. So So that's kind of like what I say back to those people. Just a reminder, if you're just tuning in, leave a comment with the word abs, and as soon as this video is over, I'll private message you my free guide, because my mission now, like I said, last year we helped 50,000 women improve this condition, and so my mission this year is to really just get the word out and explain, because nobody talks about this after pregnancy. I honestly just thought that like I wasn't eating good enough, and I thought that, oh, I just need to do more ab exercises to get this little pooch part to go away. And the truth was, those exercises were actually making the condition worse, and I'll talk about that in a second. So leave a comment with the word abs, and I'll send you that free guide through Facebook Messenger. Do we have any questions coming in yet?
Just a ton of abs.
Ton of abs. Okay. If you guys have any specific questions, leave them, and Kurt will read them to me while we're filming this. So I want to show you what exercises to avoid, and you guys might be kind of surprised by this, because I know, like, after I had my son, before I knew about this, I was doing crunches, sit-ups, V-ups, planks, Russian twists, leg drops, scissor kicks. Guess what? You should avoid every single one of those exercises if you're trying to improve your diastasis recti. And so the reason, and we go into all this in the program, I don't want to get too sciencey on this video, but we all have something called intra-abdominal pressure. Basically, it's this amount of pressure that keeps, that's in our core, that keeps all of our organs in place, and it's good, it's functional, that's what everybody should have. But what can happen is when we have that weak connective tissue that's holding your abs together that got super stretched during pregnancy, if you do an exercise, like I'll show you an example here. If you do a plank, for example, right? You're doing a plank and you are putting a ton of pressure. That force has to go somewhere. And so as you're lying down, you're putting a ton of pressure on that weak connective tissue that's holding your rectus, that's bringing your rectus abdominis muscles together. And so it's kind of like, you know, if, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here, but basically if you're doing a plank, you're constantly putting pressure on that linea alba, and those muscles are never going to come back together properly if you're putting a ton of pressure on them.
Had a quick question.
Yes.
How long after you had babies can you start?
Can you start? So whenever you have your doctor's clearance to start exercising again. So typically for a vaginal birth, it's about 6 weeks. For a C-section, it's about 8 to 10 weeks. So as long as you have clearance from your doctor. Now I will say our program is a 4-week program, and it's not a weight loss program. Like you're not going to be dripping in sweat. In fact, some of the feedback we've gotten is that in the first week, they're like, these exercises are way too easy. And then by the end of the 4 weeks, the same women are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this actually worked. And if you go onto our website, which is the link I put above, health.nataliehodson.com, we literally have thousands and thousands of testimonials from women that have done this program. In fact, if you're watching this and you did go through my program and you wanted to leave a comment and let us know your experience, that would be awesome.
How do you know when you can go back to doing crunches, planks, etc.?
That is a really good question. So basically what you want to do is you want to keep checking that tension. So if you feel like, for example, I still have maybe like a 1.5 finger gap that will probably never go away. But what you want to do is you want to feel, does that linea alba feel squishy to you, or does it feel, basically the tension level? How does it feel when you're performing those activities? You know, essentially you want to feel the depth and the depression. And then there are, in some cases, like there's some instances where, like if you have twins or triplets, there's only so much work that these exercises can do. So we're not trying to say that this program will take the place of a doctor or seeing a doctor or surgeon in every single instance. So if you have a really severe case, you may want to go see a physician, but that's typically what we suggest, is that you check the tension of, or the strength of that linea alba that's holding those muscles together. Okay, so let me show you a couple other exercises that you don't want to do. Crunches, for example, because what you're doing is you're putting a ton of pressure on, and a ton of force onto these weak muscles and these weak connective tissues. Bicycles are really bad to do because you're crossing planes by having this diagonal movement, and again, you're putting the force of that intra-abdominal pressure into a very small area. V-ups, basically every exercise you probably ever thought you would want to get your abs strong is what you don't want to do. So I'm going to show you a couple exercises that you can do instead, and these might seem simple, but I promise you that if you go through the program like we recommend, that it works. So if you're just tuning in, leave a comment with the word abs. As soon as I'm done with this video, I'll send you a private Facebook message with my free guide that goes into this so you don't have to watch the video again.
Quick one.
Yes.
It's been 5 years since she had her kids.
Uh-huh.
Does this still help? It was something
Absolutely,
like that. They're
yeah.
going by fast.
Yep. So some of the common questions we get is, does it matter if I had my babies years ago? And it doesn't. I actually didn't even go through this I didn't even know these exercises existed until my daughter was almost 4, and it worked for me. So it's just like, for example, the muscles of your core, the muscles of your pelvic floor that the program also addresses, they're muscles in your body. So just like if you've never lifted a weight before and you start lifting weights, your biceps will get stronger. If you start working these muscle groups now and you've never worked them before, then you can see massive improvement. So it doesn't matter if you had your babies 10 weeks ago or 10 years ago, this program can work. And then the other common question I get is, does it matter if you had a vaginal birth or a C-section birth? And it doesn't. This program, it's really pregnancy that causes the damage, whether it's the diastasis recti or the peeing your pants after you have babies, the pelvic floor stuff that the program addresses too. And so it's pregnancy that actually causes a lot of the damage, not the birth itself.
Another one was, can I heal it during pregnancy?
So if you can do a lot of these exercises during pregnancy, the ones you want to avoid are the ones where you lay flat on your back. And so especially the pelvic floor exercises during pregnancy definitely will be helpful. And it can actually aid in an easier labor. But some of the exercises that I'm going to show you where you're lying flat on your back, those are the ones that you want to avoid. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to do is a lying overhead reach. And so you're just going to lie on the ground with your knees bent. And then you're going to push your lower back into the ground. So see how this is just like comfortable lying? Notice how how I push my lower back into the floors, and then you're contracting the muscles of your core. And then this looks really easy, but if you're really focusing on contracting your muscles, it's going to work. So you want to lay on your back, contract the muscles of your core, and then slow and controlled, you want to take your hands, lift them above your head, touch the ground, and lift them back. And you want to go slow, just that same pace. You don't want to be going like this, it won't work as good. You just want to go nice and controlled. And what we want you to do is 3 sets of 10, so do this 10 times, rest for 60 seconds, do it 10 times again, rest for 60 seconds, do it 10 times again. All right, so that's lying overhead reach. The next exercise we want you to do is knee to chest. So you're going to do 2 sets of 10 on each side. So same position, push your lower back against the floor, contract the muscles of your abdomen, and you're just going to grab your knee and you're just going to bring it in a controlled motion to your chest, just like that, and then put it back down, and then alternate. So that's 1, and then 2, and 2, and the whole time really focusing on contracting your abs and keeping your lower back pushed into the ground. And what this is going to do, you guys, is the focus is to really create a brace with your abdominal muscles without putting too much tension on that connective tissue. And then the last exercise that I'm going to show you is a modified cat-cow. So we want you to do 2 sets of 10 with a 60-second rest in between. So you're going to go on all 4s, just like this. And what you're going to do is draw your pelvis up while contracting your outer TRA muscles, which is your outer ab muscles right here. And so what you're going to do is go just like this. This is the cat position. And then you want to dip your pelvis down just like that, okay? So keep your head up, and the whole time you're really focusing on keeping those muscles nice and tight. Right here, you want to focus on drawing these muscles in and contracting. Okay, so these are a lot different than normal ab exercises that you see in P90X or for somebody that hasn't gone through childbirth, but especially after pregnancy or even obesity can cause diastasis recti, or if you have connective tissue disorders. Men can have diastasis recti even, but pregnancy is usually the most common reason that causes this, and there are specific kind of weird exercises that you can do to improve it. Usually people go through the 30-day program and then they can slowly go back into their normal exercise. But we want you to go through these specific sets of exercises. And those are just 3 that I showed you. In our program, we have, I think there's 15 different exercises to go through. Any questions that have come in?
Yeah, how do guys end up seeing their abs again? Just kidding, that was my question.
Oh, well, a lot of it, so, and I will say, you guys, a lot of, seeing your abs, a lot of time comes down to your diet. A lot of us tend to hold fat in our abdomen. So what we're focusing on is the anatomy of your core and bringing those muscles back together. But, and in our program, we talk about nutrition tips that you can do to help reduce body fat overall. Any other good questions that have come in?
More of the same, like how many years after, which you went over a couple times, I guess, but
okay.
A lot of that, a lot of abs, they're coming in fast.
Awesome. Cool. So, again, I'm going to try and do a video series once a week because I get so many questions on this topic and I just want to provide as much value to you guys as I can. So, check out that free guide, leave a comment with the word abs. I'll private message it to you as soon as this video is over, and I hope this is helpful.
Where do they see the testimonials that I'm always reading?
Oh, yeah. So if they go to health.nataliehodson.com, I'll leave that in the comments below, so it'll probably show up as the top comment if you're looking at the comments. That's where we have screenshots of tons and tons and tons of testimonials of people that have gone through the program, that it really worked, people who were huge skeptics. Next week, I'm going to talk about the second part of the program or the second condition that this program addresses, which is pelvic floor dysfunction, which I never even knew what that word meant before, but essentially, like, if you accidentally pee your pants, if you jump rope or jump on a trampoline or cough too hard, this program actually improves that in about 83% of women as well. So next week, I'm going to talk about that embarrassing topic and how it can be improved through a certain set of weird exercises. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And if you have any questions, save them for next week, and I'll go over that in next week's video.